These secrets about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood may surprise you. That's next. Welcome back to the channel, Shakers. Derek Van Shake here. Fred Rogers starred in the PBS children's TV show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood from the late 1960s until the last episode aired on August 31st of 2001. With all the political attacks that we're bombarded with in the news and online every day, it's no wonder many of us have been recaptivated by Mr. Rogers' kindness, compassion, and altruism, and even wonder what he would say to us in his calm, comforting logic if he were still alive today.
And I know how tough it is some days to look with hope and confidence on the months and years ahead. But I would like to tell you what I often told you when you were much younger. I like you just the way you are. And what's more, I'm so grateful to you for helping the children in your life to know that you'll do everything you can to keep them safe and to help them express their feelings in ways that will bring healing in many different neighborhoods. It's such a good feeling to know that we're lifelong friends.
It's no wonder why A Beautiful Day in This Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks, is one of the most anticipated releases of 2019. Given this rejuvenated interest in Mr. Rogers, we're going to reveal his neighborhood secrets while also revealing the oddities you may not have picked up on when you watched him years ago. Now, let's get started.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you, so let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor? Hey, neighbor.
All those years and hardly anything changed. Notice the paintings, notice the curtains, and his 1960s refrigerator. It's not even possible for something like that to work anymore. The whole set hardly changes. Have you ever seen anything like that? At least we know Mr. Rogers' full-time gig is not an interior designer. And that brings up a big question that you may have also had too. Where does Mr. Rogers come in from, and where does he always leave to? I always figured Mr. Rogers was just stopping back home on his lunch hour from his real job because he was always wearing a suit. You may not know, but his neighborhood is actually going through some tough times. Massive 30-year drought.
I think that could cause a lot of fires.
Did you ever notice that it never rains? When they pan over his neighborhood, it always looks like it's a beautiful day. And he confirms that by singing "It's a Beautiful Day" every time.
It's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day.
His mother actually hand knitted all of the sweaters you see.
And you know my mother made all these sweaters.
Aren't they wonderful? Your mother makes them for you all the time?
Well, she died a couple years ago, but every year she gave 12 of us a sweater at Christmas time.
The main reason why he changes his shoes was so the microphone doesn't pick up his dress shoes clanking around on the hard floor.
You ever change your shoes when you come home from someplace?
Even though Mr. Rogers has a traffic light on his set, he's actually red-green colorblind. Did you notice he usually carries something in with him? That's his little trick. It's the initial hook to keep everyone interested and tuned in through the song. He wrote that song himself, and do you remember that very first line? Is it A, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, or is it B, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood? Despite many people believing it's choice A, it's actually not. Listen again.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood.
For some of you, your mind might be blown like mine was when I first learned this. It's called a Mandela Effect, where a sizable percentage of the population clearly remembers it differently than the way it's currently proven to be now. Kind of like New Zealand, is it north or south of Australia? It's south. There's probably a good number of you right now that are thinking, wait, how do they move New Zealand? Yeah, some Mandela effects will blow your mind. Even the movie got it wrong here, but that may of course be on purpose.
Hey, Mr. Rogers. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Tom Hanks, he's a good actor, but you may have noticed that his shoe toss impression really needed more work. Here it is side by side.
My neighbor, won't you please?
Won't you be my neighbor?
Puppets are a big part of his TV show, but you may be wondering how that all happened. Rogers started playing with puppets to entertain himself when his younger sister Elaine was born, and he was no longer the only child. Yes, the puppet character on his TV show, Lady Elaine, was named after his younger sister.
King Freddie the 13th, you know, speaks like this.
And Lady Elaine Fairchild would be glad to be here.
Fred recalls having a very lonely childhood.
I really do get very shy to meet new people. Hi, Daniel.
And was bullied a lot for being shy, introverted, and overweight. The kids would call him Fat Freddie, so he played with his puppets, stuffed animals, and created his own make-believe world all alone in his bedroom.
Now, the way we learned that at the Kingsley School was propel, propel, propel your craft gently down liquid solution. Ecstatically, 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 existence is but an illusion.
I think we all underestimate how formative our formative childhood years really are.
Did an hour a day, live. And the films would break because we had to get all free films. And so we just had a bag of puppets there. And I said, anytime the film breaks, we've got to fill in with something.
Isn't technology wonderful so we don't have to worry about that? Kind of like when there's technical difficulties, you bring out the dancing monkeys to entertain the audience. Yeah, that was his version of it. The mail carrier, Mr. McFeely. Yeah, I know, it's a very weird name. But it's actually his mother's maiden name and also his middle name. He's Fred McFeely Rogers, so there's no underlying creepy meaning to it, despite some thinking there is.
We'd usually just say, well, bye, Mr. Rogers, see you around the neighborhood. This time, it was for me only. I shook his hand.
Speedy delivery, see you around the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. McFeely.
And off I went.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was just my little gesture, thanking Fred for those many years of pleasure he gave me working for him.
He never smoked, drank, or did drugs, was a vegetarian, married 50 years, and an ordained minister.
Oh, is that nice? Whose are these? They're Jimmy's. Oh, Jim, do you have mine on? Like as if there's a wave going the whole way through your body?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Then make it come back, huh?
Yeah.
There are no known vices or anything scandalous in his past. He was basically a unicorn. He's one of those extremely rare famous people who actually lived the extremely pure life that he was known for. Looking back at some of the clips, there were some, let's just call them some odd moments. Watch.
Sometimes things don't go right in the neighborhood. Wrap the cheese around the banana and eat right away. That's very good.
Mr. Rogers participates in this learning song with these little kids. This song goes through each of the fingers individually, so I'm sure you can guess where this is going. He can't look at the camera in embarrassment and probably also subconsciously knows not to look at the camera because if he didn't chuckle and look away, it would have looked really bad. Here I am. He was looking at all the kids flipping each other off, and he can hardly contain himself. It's probably cute and humorous, too, of their innocence that they're clueless to what that typically means.
You
here I am.
Good.
And now he tries to distract himself from laughing by getting right back into that serious teacher role. But let's see how long that lasts.
Well, how are you today, sir? Very well, I say.
Not very long, especially doing that on a kids' TV show. For many years, Mr. Rogers' ending was not the full song as you all know it today.
That I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more. I
Abruptly end with, "Because we're friends."
know that
Bye before walking out.
I'll be back next week. Goodbye. I'll be back. Goodbye. Goodbye. Just you're being yourself. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Goodbye. Very good feeling. The feeling you know that we're friends. Sure. I'll be back tomorrow.
Now he tries this new goodbye here, but this one just didn't seem to work as well. Watch.
Be thinking about you tonight.
You see, Mr. Rogers always tried to explain to children to make them feel less scared.
Want to show you something.
But a clown mask? There's even a lot of adults that just find clowns to be super creepy.
Boy, that was really scary.
I like you just the way you are. Bye.
Here we are, December 1st, year 2000. This is the last scene of the last show of the last day of the interior of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Such a good feeling, a very good feeling. The feeling you know that I'll be back when the week is new, and I'll have more ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. I will too. Be back next time. Bye.
Why did Mr. Rogers have to go away? Will he ever come back?
Oh, sure he will. He said he would.
I'll be back when the week is new.
In his last episode, he didn't give a final farewell. The whole idea was to make it appear that Mr. Rogers always just kept coming back through that door. But for me, and maybe for you too, the last episode came across as very mechanical and even robotic. It would have been interesting for him to at least talk about how saying goodbye is just part of life, and maybe not necessarily having to say goodbye to the audience. It just would have hinted at him leaving, making that final episode more impactful, because now it just sadly feels like he left us without saying goodbye. Just a thought. What do you think? We're all constantly bombarded with the negativity of finger pointing from the mass media. I think we all can learn something from the kindness Mr. Rogers taught us, not just from his words, but also from the example he set. We're all neighbors who happen to be on this spinning planet at the same time, experiencing a similar human experience together. So why not look for and focus on the positives and commonality that we all share, and not the petty differences between us? Give this video a thumbs up for Mr. Rogers. Give this video a thumbs down if you somehow hate Mr. Rogers. Now in the comments, as part of the Mr. Rogers story, where do you think Mr. Rogers goes to and comes in from every day? Let everyone know in the comments below. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on new body language and investigative videos where we always shake up YouTube. And I'll see you at the top.